Good morning. For this .com talk, I'm just going to, as they say in Congress, read this into the record. It's from the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology. It's a special report, and I'm just going to read it as it's presented in this journal. A statement on abortion by 900 professors of obstetrics and gynecology after the reversal of Roe versus Wade. Is the title. I'm going to skip the preface, which just talks about when and why Roe versus Wade was decided and acted upon in the early 70s. The article reads like this. The authors are Eve Espy, MD, Stephanie Teal, MD, and Jeffrey Pipert, MD. All of those illustrious educators have other degrees besides MD, but they are all MDs and professors of obstetrics and gynecology working in medical schools here in the United States. Here, 900 professors of obstetrics and gynecology share our support for safe, legal, and accessible abortion care as medical school professors entrusted to adhere to the highest standards of clinical practice, to train the future provider workforce in patient-centered, evidence-based care, and to advance our field in the acquisition of new knowledge, we stand together in our strong support of bodily autonomy and reproductive freedom, including the right to affordable, accessible, safe, and legal abortion care. For almost 50 years, Roe v. Wade ensured a constitutionally protected legal right to abortion. Although subsequent state and federal laws have placed many and varied restrictions on this legal right, and access has been elusive for many, safe legal abortion has been widely available in the United States. In 1972, anticipating the Supreme Court decision, 100 professors of obstetrics and gynecology signed on to an article applauding the decision in advance and discussing the logistics of care provision that would be required when the decision became law. The professors wanted to contribute to the solution of providing care to those newly legally able to access it. They noted that the volume could be handled if all did their share. They anticipated conscientious objection, but expected the objectors would appropriately refer for needed care, as they who practiced obstetrics and gynecology before Roe v. Wade were painfully aware from their practices of the dire morbidity and mortality consequences of illegal care. They predicted the direction medicine was heading from a doctor-centered perspective to a patient-centered decision-making model, noting that it would seem inevitable that the courts will someday decide that any girl who is physically mature enough to conceive should ipso facto be granted the freedom to determine the fate of her pregnancies. Furthermore, they noted the importance of care being made equally available to the rich and to the poor. Of note, 40 years later, in 2013, 100 professors of obstetrics and gynecology again signed on to an article about abortion care, noting the ways in which the original 100 professors both had been prescient in some predictions and had seriously underestimated the political backlash of Roe v. Wade decision. These 100 professors applauded the decline in septic abortions and that occurred with the legalization of abortion care. Furthermore, they described the 2013 landscape of abortion care provision marred by several laws and regulations to restrict access and require non-evidence-based counseling and medical practice, stigma for physicians, advanced practice clinicians, and patients, and lack of funding that disproportionately affected low-income patients and patients of color. This article was a call to action to refute legislative restrictions, to continue to train learners and have the ability to provide evidence-based information. Only 10 years later, we are compelled to write again as the Supreme Court has reversed the federally protected right to bodily autonomy for women that has been in place for almost 5 decades, with a disastrous decision for individual and public health. We, 900 professors, write to support evidence-based medicine, including access to constitutionally protected, safe, and legal abortion care, and to deplore the politicization of medical care, care that should appropriately be in the realm of the patient and physician or provider. Similar to the views held in the 2 previous articles, we, 900 professors, believe that patients should make their decisions about their reproductive health, and that physicians and advanced practice clinicians should be without political interference, stigma-free, and respected for offering evidence-based care. We are 900 professors strong, indicating the widespread support of our medical community for accessible, equitable care. We are now going back to a lack of federal protections and onerous and non-evidence-based state-level restrictions similar to the state criminal abortion laws of the mid-19th century. We have collectively forgotten the wards of patients with septic abortion and the misery and death that accompanied illegal abortion. We have failed to learn from the 59 countries that have liberalized their abortion laws. The United States is among only 3 other countries, Poland, El Salvador, and Nicaragua, that have reversed abortion rights and restricted access to abortion. Our country has one of the worst maternal mortality rates among developed nations, 33 maternal deaths for every 100,000 live births. This ratio is more than double that of most other high-income countries. The Supreme Court decision, similar to the many state-level restrictions that came before the reversal of Roe, disproportionately affects marginalized people and people of color. When forced to carry an unwanted pregnancy to term, individuals are 4 times as likely to live below the poverty line. In addition, we can expect an increase in both infant and maternal morbidities and mortalities in the years ahead, with widening health inequities. Patients in states with comprehensive bans initiated after the loss of federal protections are already experiencing the consequences. As of this writing, the authors have cared for pregnant patients driving hundreds of additional miles in a state of terror, lest anyone helping them be reported to authorities by legal vigilantes, patients treated with doubt and suspicion when they present with miscarriage bleeding, patients with lethal fetal anomalies searching for doctors' appointments, gas money, and housing before their pregnancy progresses further, and patients with life-threatening ectopic pregnancies receiving delayed care because of confusion about their rights to be treated. Seeking to provide evidence-based care for the patients that we have dedicated our lives to serve, we and our colleagues are at the mercy of laws that are unclear about what emergency is life-threatening enough to allow a legal abortion. In addition, we must consider the effect of this ruling on the workforce and training of physicians. Abortion training is an accreditation council for graduate medical education requirement for obstetrics and gynecology residency accreditation. Going forward, many programs will struggle to meet this standard. Half of the obstetrics and gynecology residency training programs in the United States will have no or inadequate abortion training opportunities. Who will be trained to evacuate the uterus in a patient with septic abortion in the second trimester of pregnancy, or severe eclampsia at 19 weeks of gestation, or in a patient with an 18-week fetus with anencephaly with no chance for survival? Women's lives will be put at risk. Some will die unnecessarily. The decision to continue a pregnancy is a deeply personal one, and one that should be carefully considered in consultation with a physician or provider who adheres to the principles of reproductive ethics with respect to patient autonomy. Our state and federal government should not interfere with the patient-physician relationship. This group of 900 professors fully supports a person's right to choose whether or not to continue a pregnancy. In the interest of evidence-based medical care, human rights, and public health, we condemn the Supreme Court's decision and attempts by politicians to elevate their personal beliefs over the bodily autonomy of their state's citizens. We stand by our patients as we join a host of colleagues, professional organizations to advocate for comprehensive health care that includes access to safe and legal abortion. I think this is a very important statement by a group of physicians that have dedicated their lives to the health care of women and training other physicians in that same area. And I could not agree more with their position and decision, being a physician myself and having been for many years an abortion provider and training other physicians in safe abortion practice, evidence-based safe abortion practice. One thing I would like to add as an addendum to the statement by these dedicated professionals is that the chances of a woman dying from a pregnancy that is carried to term are at least 25 times greater than that of that same woman or a similar woman having a serious or fatal complication associated with a first or second trimester termination of said pregnancy. Women have a right to protect their lives, and women have a right to choose the nature of the family that they dedicate themselves to raise and be a part of.